I can see a lot of familiar faces over here, so this will not be embarrassing at all. Before I begin, I have a bit of a confession to make. I'm standing here in front of you like a self-professed guru, talking about a lesson that I learned, scratch that I was taught quite brutally, quite earlier on in my career. I started my marketing journey with Reckitt Benckiser, well, now Reckitt's. And I was a brand manager for Dettol liquid, the Dettol antiseptic liquid, which is fundamentally used in cuts and wounds, and which was an extremely strong and powerful brand in India. During the annual target negotiation, which all of us kind of go through, right, and the ritual of target negotiation, my marketing director wanted me to grow by 10%. I very politely reminded him the folly of his thought process, informed him that the category was growing at 2%. We had an 85% market share, so it honestly didn't make sense. I might have been cocky enough to suggest that perhaps the only way out was for me to encourage mothers to beat up their kids or something, so that's the only way I can sell more Dettol liquid. I don't think I was that stupid, but I wouldn't put it past myself. My boss cringed because this was clearly an irreversible situation, and his boss went in for the kill. He said a couple of choicest things, and he ended by the statement which is etched on my mind. There is no such thing as a mature market, only mature marketeers. And by that, I mean lazy. I'm standing here in front of you to talk about how we need to work, how we need to develop the market. McKinsey did this study where they analyzed the Fortune 500 companies across 15 odd years, and they tried to understand what drove the growth. And they realized that 15% of them performed because of share gain, another 15% because of M&As, but the host of them was because they grew the market. Share gain is fundamentally a zero-sum game, and that's where we end up spending most of our thought. If you look at anybody, most of us in this room are guilty of this. We spend 80% of our time chasing that 15% of share gain, where the real value lies in growing the market. The reason I'm bringing this very basic truth up front, something which you all know about, is because the need for that is even more pronounced now than it has ever been. If you look at what's happening to the FMCG market, and this is across the board, it is declining. For the first time, we're seeing volume come down. We're seeing, as a result, value come down. This is happening across categories. When volume starts to come down, costs go up. When costs go up, prices go up, by and large. When prices go up, volume comes down further. So we are caught in this vicious cycle, and we need to move away from this vicious cycle into really doing what grows the market, getting volume back into this. Now, we all know the time-tested philosophy of how do you get the market to grow. You can either get more people coming, you can get more users, you can get more usage, and this whole, it's been done extremely successfully. It's been done by the toothpaste guys brushing twice a day. I mean, it wasn't really popular, 15, 20 years ago. It's 20 years ago, people used to shampoo their hair once a week. Now they do it more often, so you can get more usage, or you can drive more benefits. The reason why I want to talk about this is that no matter what situation you are in, this is the answer, right? And I want to take this time to talk about a category which, against all odds, managed to prove this forward. Now, the reason why this sounds like a shameless plug is because it might just be. But but more importantly, I think there is a bit of a lesson here for us all to learn to share. The MSG category is a category which has been declining relevance over the years, right? This category was at an 80% penetration at one point in time. It's down to 65%. If you carry down this path, it'll probably be down to 35%, by 2040, and probably move to irrelevance, by 2035 or 2050 or whatever. This category, for the longest time, has had a lot of negative surround sound. There's been a lot of conversation around it. There's had a lot of negative surround sound. But where it kind of hurt us a little more was our brand was firmly entrenched into this category. So we were associated with this category. Now, at this point in time, you have two choices, and both routes work. You can either say, this is what it is, and let me now start building another brand, and I've got a 10, 15-year head start. Let me start building another brand, looking at alternate categories, and that works as well. Or you can turn around and say, how do I grow this category? How do I manage to grow a category which has really now been in decline and has really got the deck stacked against itself? The reason I want to share this is because it is important we understand very, very clearly how to drive the growth. Now, the first step is to understand the issue. What exactly is going on? Why is this happening, right? The funny part of this was that 64% of our users, of the consumers of the category, were scared because of health concerns. So even your core base was kind of shrinking. And you need to understand what the negative perception was all about. Of course, the reality was the negative perception was kind of based in racism. It was called the Chinese food syndrome, but it's going on since 1968. And this issue had not been addressed. So before you make that decision, to understand what exactly is the story all about. Is there merit, or is there no merit to the story? Now, anybody who's been in any WhatsApp group, right, and there's been a political conversation, you realize that, logic and reasoning has absolutely nothing to do with people's points of view and opinions. What drives it is emotion, and this is no different from any other. You need to address the head and the heart. You can talk about the rational, you can get the KOLs, you can get the opinion leaders, you can get the doctors, but that doesn't cut it. Yeah. You need to address the emotional as well. You need to talk to the heart. And how do you do that? You reframe it in something which works. You reframe it in popular culture. You reframe it in the current belief. And that, just to give you an example, it was, in this case, it was about, it's natural. It's available, it's found in nature, and the green vegetables you eat and all the food you eat. What's more, it's made from sugarcane. It's a fermentation process, just the way wine is. Wine may not work, but that's the way tempeh is, just the way yogurt is. So you reframe the story in something which the consumer has an inherent belief, and you reframe the subject. But the interesting learning for us was, because this issue has been unaddressed for so many years, for 60 odd years, the volume of negative content which exists is a lot. So you need to ensure that, so anytime anybody searches, the negative content will pop up because it's been there for 60 odd years. So you need to break the vicious cycle, and you need to be at it year on year throughout each day, each day, each week, each month, and maybe each year. So that anytime anybody's, wow, that's a lot of pressure. Anytime anybody searches, you know, you get a balanced view. And you need to do this for the next couple of years till that balance is restored. But where we also need to kind of look at, and something which the category's been guilty of not doing, of being completely apologetic about it, you need to get back, drive the relevance to why the consumer is buying you. What is the reason for the consumer coming to the category? So it's not just about the myth busting, but it's also reinforcing the promise. And I think that is where this category had been sinning as much as it was sinned against, is because it was completely embarrassed and apologetic about talking about it. Now, it takes a lot of courage to do this. But if you go down this path, if you address the issue head on and you tackle it, the payoff is phenomenal. And as you can see, for the first time, the category starts to grow driven by the brand growth. So you can reverse the trend. But the golden payoff is because the brand gets associated so closely to the category, it has rub-offs in the periphery. So the payoff is worth the pain, and growing the market is extremely, extremely critical job for all of us. It is even more important now. We as a business need to now start looking at how do we increase the share of the pie and worry a little less about the slice of the pie which we're getting. Because across all classes, across all, whatever, however, SES, LSM, whatever you want to call it, there is a very, very clear decline happening. And it is up to each and every one of us in this room, as guardians of the brand, as guardians of the category, to really reverse this going forward. This, had my boss said this to me, I would have felt a little better, but I think I deserve that slap. But I want to end on a bit happier note. Markets don't mature, needs evolve, and we as marketers must too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, we'd like to invite